Insight without influence becomes reporting. And reporting without any kind of action is just noise. So this isn't a tool problem. It's an organizational design problem. Welcome to the Social Media CX Podcast, the show about what really happens when brands stop broadcasting and start having real conversations with their customers on social. I'm Brooke Ellis, and around here, we believe that conversations beat campaigns every single time. This show is for leaders navigating social as a customer experience channel, especially in complex enterprise and highly regulated environments. Let's get into it. Let me start with a question that almost always creates friction inside of organizations. Who owns social care? Marketing thinks it should. Customer experience thinks it has to. Support already does the work, and comms is constantly worried about the risk. And leadership just wants it to work. Don't we all just want it all to work? Especially in highly regulated industries where not working doesn't just mean a bad experience. It means risk. It means escalation. It also means reputational exposure in a very public forum. What's interesting is that most of the tension around social care isn't about capability. It's more about control. Ownership isn't actually the problem. The lack of orchestration is what we are finding is the major problem. As we've been working on the State of Social Care report for 2026, this showed up everywhere. Not because teams are doing anything wrong, but because they're trying to solve a systems problem with an ownership debate. Here's why this conversation keeps getting stuck. Most organizations still treat social care like a channel responsibility instead of cross-functional infrastructure. That might survive at smaller scales, and it often does, but it starts to break in enterprise environments, especially when we're talking about financial services, fintech, healthcare, any kind of regulated B2B brand, where response, speed, tone, escalation carry real compliance implications. So the conversation becomes who responds, who approves, who reports. When the conversation should really sound like this: who interprets signals, who escalates insights, and who turns these patterns and trends into action for the larger brand at scale. In Chapter 7 of our social care report, we outline 4 common ownership models: marketing-led, customer experience or CX-led, support-led, and hybrid or hub and spoke. And here's what the data shows very clearly, y'all. No single model guarantees success. However, alignment is more of a clear indicator of success. High maturity organizations don't obsess over who owns social care. Instead, they design systems where social listening informs action. Teams share accountability. Insights don't die in silos. That one, right in the heart. I hate that one. This is where social listening also comes in, because it's where most organizations quietly struggle. Social listening teams often see issues arise first. They detect churn signals much earlier. They understand cultural context before the campaign fails. And they hear objections before sales does, way before sales does in a lot of situations. But they don't always have authority to do anything with this information. And in regulated organizations, that gap is often wider because authority is distributed across legal, compliance, risk, customer experience, and the brand. Insight without influence becomes reporting. Repeat that. I'm going to repeat it for you. Insight without influence becomes reporting. And reporting without any kind of action is just noise. So this isn't a tool problem. It's an organizational design problem. I would say it's not even a team problem. This is exactly why social care stalls, even when someone owns it, because the people closest to the signal aren't always closest to the decision. Too many layers, right? This challenge isn't theoretical. Even highly mature, enterprise-sized brands have had to intentionally design for social care. This is where I want to bring in a voice that I deeply respect. She's been on this show before, so if you haven't listened to Paige Walker's episode on social listening, make sure you go do that after this. Paige Walker is a bombshell. She's the manager of cultural intelligence and trends at the Hershey Company. Yes, Hershey Candy, the one we all love. And she works at the intersection of social listening, AI, and cross-functional insight. And her perspective perfectly captures what mature organizations understand. Here's how she put it in our report. Social listening can support strategy, helping a brand plan for what might happen in the future, but hasn't happened yet. It lets you analyze how competitors may have handled a situation and takes learnings from it. Social listening can also help you quantify an issue, letting a brand know whether it's something to be concerned about or not worthy of any attention. She goes on to say, your consumers are telling you what they want, and it's all on social media. Tapping into conversations about your brand and category or competitors can provide key insights into what your consumers are looking for. Leaders need to take social media data more seriously and give it a seat at the table with other forms of data. Communication is key. Figure out what business questions other teams are looking to answer and find ways that your data, your social listening data, can help answer them. Education and advocacy are also essential. You are the expert in social media data. Paige basically just summed up the difference between monitoring, which is what a lot of people do with social listening or think they're doing, and maturity. Social listening isn't about the pretty dashboards, and I know they're pretty. We can get stuck in them for a long time. But really, it's more about foresight. And foresight only matters if leadership is willing to listen, number one, but number two, a very close second, is act. That is the shift we're calling for in our State of Social Care report. We want you to stop asking who owns social care and start asking, how do we orchestrate this? In higher maturity organizations, we constantly see these things: shared success metrics across marketing, CX, customer experience, and support. A lot of times that even goes into product or brand. We see clear escalation paths for social insights, meaning listening but also acting on the insights that we receive. We see executive sponsorship for social intelligence. Executive teams are bought in. They know how important it is from the top down. Governance that prioritizes learning and not control. This is especially true in industries that are highly regulated. It's hard to get around all of that control, those compliance and risks. But when you prioritize learning, it gets better. Social care, when all of that is happening, becomes infrastructure and not turf, and definitely not living in a silo. And in regulated organizations, this shift is what allows speed and safety to coexist with one another. Social listening becomes the connective tissue between customers and leadership, between sentiment, the feeling of those customers, and the strategy of the brand, between what's happening now in this moment and what's coming next. Before you download anything, but I really do want you to download the State of Social Care report. But before you do that, and before you think about restructuring your team, I want you to do one simple exercise. Draw out 2 columns, get a piece of paper, just 2 columns, easy peasy. And in column 1, write who officially owns social care. Okay? And then in column 2, I want you to put who customers think owns it. And then I want you to ask yourself these questions. Where do these 2 things diverge? What breaks if they do diverge? Where does social listening actually live in this picture? And one more question, especially if you operate in a regulated industry, when something goes wrong on social, who is empowered to act in the moment after approval cycles? If insight is showing up, but action isn't, you don't have an ownership problem. You have an orchestration gap. And that's where I think a lot of you will find that you sit. Over the last 4 episodes, we've talked about why the old social care and social media model is broken, how trust shows up way before the sale, why automation must amplify empathy, and why ownership without orchestration stalls your progress. All of this is unpacked inside of the State of Social Care Report 2026, which I strongly, highly, very much recommend you download. The links are in the show notes, which if you're listening are on YouTube, where you can watch the episode and get the show transcript under the video, or you can visit bsquare.media/the-state-of-social-care-2026. So the State of Social Care 2026, pop in those dashes in between the words. As always, if this show is helping you think differently about social media, social care, customer experience on social, customer support on social, please rate and review us at ratethispodcast.com/SMCX. That's S is in social, M is in media, C is in customer, and X is in X-ray, even though we know CX means customer experience. When you rate and review us, it totally makes my day, obviously, but it also helps us get in front of more brilliant voices and keeps our community growing with intention. Until next time, think conversation, not campaign. Thanks for tuning in to the Social Media CX podcast. If you loved today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs to up their social care game.